The hour is upon us, and it looks like the essential people are here. So I will call to order reconvening after our closed session, the City Council Successor Agency to the Guam Desert Redevelopment Agency and Housing Authority meeting for October 14th, 2021. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem Harnick.
Here.
Councilmember Jonathan.
Present.
Councilmember Nastandi.
Here.
Councilmember Quintanilla.
Presente.
Mayor Kelly.
Yes, here.
All members present. We have a quorum, Madam Mayor.
Excellent. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Mayor Pro Tem Jan Harnick.
Thank you, Mayor. If you are able, please stand with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will offer the invocation inspiration this evening, and it is inspired by my experience this weekend at Paint El Paseo Pink. I'm still pink. We had a superb city team participate. I know Councilmember Quintanilla and Mayor Pro Tem Harnick were also present, possibly others, and they will vouch for the fact that there was a powerful community spirit of support and enthusiasm. It was so clear that people are eager to come together in common cause, inspired by that experience. We give thanks for all the nonprofit endeavors and volunteers who provide a fabric of support, creating a sense of community among all our residents. May their generosity inspire us to assure that all of our actions and the manner by which we conduct the public business affirms that we are a community of compassion, guarding the welfare of all. Do we have anything to report by way of action from closed session?
Yes, we do. Referring to the closed session agenda on matter A1, the sheriff's station, there was no reportable action. On A2, the council voted unanimously with Mayor Pro Tem Harnick abstaining. They voted to accept the two properties listed there on the agenda, one of which, the Portola property, had a mortgage on it. That's all for the report. Thank you.
And thank you. We have no awards presentations or appointments, which brings us to Mayor Council Member reports and requests for action. First up this evening is Councilmember Nastandi.
Thank you, Mayor. Just that I've met a few times when we've had the coffee with a cop, and most recently last week, and I had the pleasure of speaking with the citizens on Patrol Sergeant Harry Stone. I want to make sure I remembered his name, and in conversation talking about all the wonderful things this group of citizen volunteers are doing for our city. They are our eyes and our ears for us and the sheriff's department. He was telling me that they are really short volunteers, and I asked him how many, and he said 10 would be great, Councilmember Nastandi, if we could, get 10. So I told him I would see what could be done, and being we just had a study session And we have so many people in our community that want to help and volunteer. And I think back to the interviews we held to fill some of these positions back in June, that could we in some way include the citizens on patrol and also just get the word out that anybody over the age of 18 is eligible to be on the Citizens for Patrol. So that's my request.
Thank you for that. We've obviously begun casting the net. And I think it's always helpful to emphasize that people don't need a law enforcement background. I think folks sometimes misunderstand that this is a supportive position that helps with traffic control and events. And as you said, everyone over 18 is welcome to apply. Councilmember Quintanilla.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. I just want to echo your sentiments on Pain del Paseo Pink, and it was truly powerful. I think I saw the estimates were about 18,000 people that were there. And I think that the part that impacted me most was to see the survivors walking at the end, that were bearing their scars and their tattoos. And that was the reminder that showing up for these events is a fun part. Buying the water bottle with the pink ribbon, it makes us feel good, but nothing fights cancer like encouraging your loved ones to get your screenings. And a lot of us skipped our screenings during the pandemic for lots of reasons, but it's the good reminder that it takes human action. So please remember to encourage your loved ones and set your own appointments. And speaking of setting appointments, we need everybody to continue to sign up and save lives. And one way that we can help those that are current cancer patients is to provide life-saving platelets. So if we can give blood, give platelets, they are in critical need. They are down to less than a one-day supply. So please sign up and save a life. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Jonathan.
Thank you, Mayor. No reportable action and no request for action. Thank you.
And you're muted, Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick,
I kind of assumed that's what you were saying.
you read my lips.
A couple things, and what Councilmember Quintanilla said and Mayor Kelly said, it was really great to see that sea of pink. It's always, and I love the way you put it, Councilmember Quintanilla, remind your loved ones to get screening, because even though it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month in October, men and women get that disease, and it's important for everybody to be aware of that and to take the appropriate measures. I had an RCT, Riverside County Transportation Commission meeting yesterday. We are looking at STIP funds, which is State Transportation Improvement Plan. Yes, and it looks like we're going to get some good amounts of funds for the Coachella Valley Association of Governments and the projects they have. And also there is close to 17 million being allocated towards the train. So we hope we're getting that all. We want to do branding on that train and really encourage that. I mean, I think we may hear that train a-coming. So let's stay on that one. That's exciting. Also, at the beginning of the week, I went into San Bernardino. There was an Assembly Members Housing Roundtable. And although I never feel that I get to speak for our local city as much as I'd like to with the issues of housing and how we would like to address them, and the great job that actually Palm Desert does do addressing them, there still were some great ideas out there. We'll learn from them. And I made enough contacts that those assemblymen or members will have the opportunity to hear from me again. So that's what I did. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have one item to share. Mayor Pro Tem Harnick and I composed the council subcommittee on committees and commissions. And of course, we've been bringing various recommendations to you in recent months. I wanted to give you a preview of a coming attraction. Before the pandemic, staff assembled an ad hoc committee working on methods to improve civic engagement, to equip and connect all segments of our community with our civic process. We are working on a proposal we'll bring to you at a future session to regularize that function and make that one of our routine committees or commissions. That brings us to non-agenda public comments. If there is a member of the public attending who would like to address us on any non-agenda items, this is the time to call attention to yourself, either by using the raise hand function in your Zoom app, or if you're on the phone, by hitting *9. I don't see any telephone attendees. I'm waiting for Zoom attendees to see if anyone wants to raise their hand. I will emphasize that council is not able to engage topics that were not on the published agenda, but we're always eager to interact with the public and can be contacted through City Hall, either by email or phone. I see no one waiting to speak. Madam Clerk, is there anyone you're aware of?
There is not, Madam Mayor.
All right, we will proceed to the consent calendar. Do any council members wish to remove something from consent? Is there a motion?
Move approval.
I second.
Roll, please take the vote.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem Harnick,
Yes.
Councilmember Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Nastandi,
Yes,
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Kelly.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Motion carries unanimously.
All right. I have, there are no public hearings. I have been informed that it is staff's desire to poll item 11. Mr. Alvarez, are you here to confirm that?
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of City Council. Yeah, that is correct. We will need some additional time to finalize some language on the resolution, working with the Housing and Community Development Department at the state level.
All right. Madam Clerk, do we need a motion to continue that, or is Mr. Alvarez's statement sufficient?
I think it would be good to have a motion to postpone to October 28th.
All righty, who would like to make that motion?
So moved.
second,
Let's take the vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick,
Yes.
Councilmember Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Nastandi,
yes,
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Kelly.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item 12 is a request to award contract number C 41880 for landscape maintenance area number 1 to Mariposa Landscapes Inc. of Irwindale, California for a 56-month period for the monthly amount of $40,319 or $483,828 annually, and include repair work and services for an annual amount not to exceed $100,000. Project number 90122. May we please have the staff report?
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and City Council members. I'm Randy Chavez, Landscape Supervisor. Due to the unfortunate circumstances as stated in the staff report, staff solicited proposals for LMA 1 with the results detailed in the staff report. Prior to advertising, staff updated the specifications, including frequency of maintenance activities, price sheets, and the irrigation maintenance section. A 3-staff panel reviewed the proposals and recommends awarding to Mariposa Landscapes of Irwindale. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Councilmember Jonathan.
Thank you, Mayor. So, Mr. Chavez, I noticed that staff is recommending that the contract be awarded to a bidder that presented something other than the lowest bid. And your staff report talks a little bit about the reasoning for that, but I guess I couldn't quite get my arms around that. Would you elaborate a little bit why staff is departing from the normal process of accepting the lowest bid?
Several years ago, we consulted with the city attorney regarding going with a proposal performance-based award. Typically in the past, contractors were awarded based on a low bid, and then they would fail to execute the contract. The staff panel reviewed this proposal, Mariposa's, and found that they actually supplied more labor that is needed to perform the maintenance activities outlined, whereas the lowest bid did not. So from the second bidder, Mariposa Landscape has 10% more labor allocated on a weekly basis, and staff feels that that is what it takes to perform the maintenance of this contract.
That's very helpful. So if I read you right, we're paying a little bit more, but we're getting quite a bit more as well.
Absolutely, and we're getting technical labor, which is irrigation and spray techs. So it's not just the crew raking, but we're getting a lot more technical support for this contract.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chavez. I appreciate the clarification, your report, and all your good work. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick.
Thank you. So in reading the report you provided to us, it's just so unfortunate to see one more business suffering from a lack of labor. And that seems to be what has occurred here. And we see it with so many of our businesses, and it is indeed unfortunate. I do have a question. What is it that assures us that that Mariposa Landscape won't have the same issue? Are we really comfortable with it?
Several conversations and meetings with Mariposa. Actually had one this morning with them as well. They're providing a schedule if this they get awarded this contract. Deputy Director Mr. Ramirez and myself will meet with them next week. So what we are planning on doing is meeting with our vendors on a more frequent basis just to gauge where they're at. Also being mindful that there is a labor shortage and providing support where necessary to maybe modify the schedule as needed to ensure that they are providing the proper staff and performing per the contract specifications.
Well, thank you. And it's great to hear how thoughtful you're being in addressing this issue. So thank you so much.
Did Mr. Ramirez wish to add something to that reply?
Thank you, Honorable Mayor. It's a privilege to be a part of this staff report. In addition to Mr. Chavez's comments and response, we would like to share that Mariposa has been able to demonstrate a stability in providing staffing for other areas of landscape and irrigation needs in the city. In fact, they have also been serving as our stopgap measure over these past few months and have demonstrated their ability to care for our city. And so we hope that that would give additional assurance to the City Council.
Thank you for that.
Councilmember Quintanilla.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to say I appreciate staff being thorough and, as the Mayor Pro Tem mentioned, very cautious and considerate over making a selection of what's going to have the best chance at success and not just looking at where the bottom dollar is. And remembering the ride along that I did with Mr. Chavez and looking at the needs and watering, and that it's not just making sure that things are trimmed and pruned, but making sure that people are equipped to handle the high-tech water sensors to be sure that we're water wise. And so it's an array of technical skills beyond just landscaping and keeping things green and pretty as folks may consider. So thank you, staff, for putting together something so comprehensive.
Sounds like we're ready for a motion.
Move approval.
I second.
Madam Clerk, please take the vote.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem Harnick,
Yes.
Councilmember Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Nastandi,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Kelly.
Yes,
Motion carries unanimously.
thank you. Item 13, request for direction regarding modifications to dining decks within the city of Palm Desert. Mr. Schwartz, welcome.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay. Let me try to pull up this PowerPoint, sorry. Okay, can everyone see the PowerPoint?
Yes, we
The
can.
Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, Kevin Swartz, Associate Planner with the Planning Division. Just a brief background. So in response to the pandemic, the city allowed restaurants to obtain temporary use permits for outdoor dining decks.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt, Kevin? We see your notes view, so it's a little difficult to read the large text on the PowerPoint. No worries.
What? Hold on, please. Oh. Excellent. Isn't it just
Even that view is a little easier if you want to. I don't have to be full screen, but this definitely makes it a little easier just to be able to accommodate it.
okay? So can you
Thank very
see?
much.
Okay. This one?
Kevin, I think if you went to the very top, the red ribbon, and hit that screen icon, that might take care of it. Otherwise, I agree, it's fine.
Okay, so does this work? Sorry. No.
This works, thank you.
Please proceed.
Top left. It's in the top left.
This one?
Yep. So I should get you there.
Okay.
Kevin, I can see fine. So
Okay.
I don't know what the rest of the council members
Okay, so can you hear me?
and hear you.
Okay, thank you. So in response to the pandemic, I apologize. The city allowed restaurants to obtain the temporary use permits for outdoor dining decks. The city identified important safety and design elements that needed to be addressed in order to continue the program and to mitigate any potential safety claims. So in May and June of 2021, staff developed draft concepts for design and safety guidelines. On June 8th and June 9th, staff held Zoom meetings with the merchants and restaurant owners to present those concepts for design and safety measures. June 17th, 2021, staff presented those same things to the El Paseo Merchants Association. In June 2021, staff contracted with Presvusic Greenwood Architects to finalize those design and safety guidelines. At the June 24th, 2021 City Council meeting, the City Council adopted those and extended the existing temporary use programs for 1 year until June 30th, 2022, requiring the restaurants to modify their dining decks to comply with those new safety guidelines. And then those safety guidelines were formally adopted on June 27, 2021 by the city's Architectural Review Commission. This is an exhibit on the right here that is in the design guidelines. Basically, this little model on the left, the restaurants have to create some sort of a barrier, and then they have to taper it at the end here, implement a curb stop, a delineator post, and some reflection tabs. And so that's what staff is currently working with for most of the restaurants. On August 3rd, 2021, staff sent out 11 letters, including the dining deck design guidelines to all the restaurants within the public right-of-way. So this is for the restaurants on El Paseo and the frontage road. On the right here, this is a list of those restaurants. The letter just advised the restaurant owners that the adopted guidelines are in place and that they have until the end of October to comply. The letter also included the city's grant program up to $5,000 per restaurant. The remaining restaurants that were located within private property were not sent those letters as part of them because a lot of those restaurants, 13 of them, removed their dining decks. So on the right here, the ones in yellow, these are the restaurants that removed either their dining deck or their tent structures. So all of August, the dining deck team reached out to the remaining restaurants to see if they wanted a dining deck, if they were going to replace it or not. And majority of them came back and said that they did not plan on putting their dining deck or tent structure back unless indoor dining was shut down again or limited. So on August 25th, staff still sent out a letter just to the remaining restaurants, just advising them that if they did decide to install a deck, that they do have until the end of October to comply. So background from August through October, obviously up until about an hour ago, staff has been in communication with restaurant and owners and managers through phone calls, emails, meetings at City Hall, and on-site meetings. TUP applications, we received 6 temporary use permit applications to date. Mama Gina's, a Sweet Basil, Pizza Vino, Armando's, a French Cafe, and Little Bar. We've approved 2, Mama Gina's and Sweet Basil. This image here is not one of the cities, so this is from Pasadena, but this seems to be what a lot of the restaurants are proposing, are these metal planters. And then each planter would be filled with either rock or sand to accommodate 250 pounds to comply. But staff is very close with these remaining 4, Pizza Vino, Armando's, and the French Cafe and Little Bar. Close to submitting an actual application are the ones on the right here. The ones in green are ones on El Paseo. The Fix, we anticipate them coming in next week. The Daily Grill, I just spoke with the property owner. They will be removing a large portion of their dining deck. If you recall, a lot of that dining deck does extend in front of adjacent businesses. That section should be coming out this weekend. And then I did speak with somebody from corporate for Daily Grill. They're coming down next week to assess whether or not they want to keep the small portion in front of their store, but we will continue to work with them. Kitchen 86, I've been in conversation with that restaurant owner. They are pretty close. El Corso sent me an email yesterday. They will be submitting next week. Castelli's, I've had communication with them. I met them on site, so I anticipate something coming in relatively soon. Desert Wine Shop, same thing. Gastro Grindburger, myself and another planner, Nick Maloney, met the owner out there. They do have some modifications that they do have to do, such as building a platform. So they're currently working with a contractor on submitting those plans. Hopefully those come in relatively quick. Mimo's Italian, we have not been able to touch base with them, so some more outreach does have to occur there. The ones in yellow, Gorilla Burger, they want one, but their landlord, I guess, made them remove it. So they're currently working with their landlord to see if the landlord would allow one back. Buffet Wine Bar on El Paseo, they had tables and chairs on El Paseo. They've removed them. They're actually expanding into the adjacent suite. So if they did anything, it'd be a permanent outdoor kind of patio, similar to what's out there now. Wildest Greens, we've been working with that property owner. They currently have a temporary dining deck in the parking lot. They would like to make that permanent. In order to go through that process, they would need to submit a conditional use permit, since it would be taking away shared parking. Fresh Agave, they have a dining or a deck area in the back, which is on private property, but they would also like to make that permanent, which would be a conditional use permit process. So staff believes that we're close with the remaining restaurants, but we do have concerns that the actual modifications that would have to be done would not occur by the deadline of October 31st, 2021. So staff is seeking a request of direction from the council tonight. The first one would be to remove all dining decks that are not in compliance with the approved dining deck program, and then they would have to be removed by October 31st, 2021. The other one is to extend the compliance date 1 month through November 30th, 2021. And then the last policy direction would be for all restaurant owners that submit their temporary use permit prior to the deadline of October 31st, that we only grant those an extension through November 30th. This would allow them to make those modifications in the field. Staff is actually recommending this policy direction number 3, because like I mentioned, we believe that we're close. So that concludes my presentation. I do apologize again for the start. Are there any questions of staff?
Let me note that we do have one member of the public who has requested to speak, but we'll take questions first. But colleagues, let's make sure we limit ourselves to questions before we hear from that member of the public. Councilmember Quintanilla.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question for staff. As of the time of the printing, there was 10 no's that were listed in addition to memos. There were 9 others. Have there been any progress or communication from those remaining 9 as far as whether they hope to or they just have not responded at all?
No, a lot of those, like Ruth Chris Steakhouse, Outback, those are more corporate. So at this time, they were not interested.
Thank you.
Councilmember Jonathan.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, so I'm trying to get my arms around the timing thing. Council approved the temporary structures through June of 2022. Why are we setting this October 31 deadline, or discussing setting an October 31 deadline?
So the deadline is to get the dining decks to comply with the safety guidelines now. So the deadline is October 31st, 2021.
Extended, conditioned upon compliance with new standards.
That's right.
And then Kevin, and then come June 2022, that will come back to council again before it expires if we want to continue the dining decks. That's my understanding.
Correct, yes.
But if they don't comply, then currently it's October 31st and you're wanting to get our direction.
Correct.
Am I correct? Yes, okay.
And just to be clear, the 3 possible policies that you showed on slides are alternatives. Am I correct?
Yes.
And the most lenient alternative would be number 2, which extends the compliance period through November 30th. Would that be true?
Yes.
And staff is recommending slightly less lenience in that you want people to have a temporary use permit application on file before the end of this month in order to get that extension.
That is correct.
So the real focus as between those 2 choices is whether we think it's sufficient to give people 2 more weeks to complete their designs and paperwork. True.
Yes.
Okay. Councilmember Jonathan.
Thank you, Mayor. And I apologize. I lost the connection there and didn't get the answer. So I'll ask a different question, hopefully catch up on the rest of it. But Mr. Swartz, in part of your staff report, you indicated that permanent structures would need a conditional use permit instead of a temporary permit. And I thought part of our objective was to make permanent dining decks as easy as possible on our restaurateurs. Why are we requiring a conditional use permit to convert something that meets our standards into something permanent?
The conditional use permit is only for 2 private ones that want to make them private within a parking lot. So Wildest Greens is currently taking away parking. And so in order to do that, we have to, notify the adjacent businesses to make sure that they're okay with that. We do that through a conditional use permit process.
Okay. And my other question is, what would happen if we did nothing?
If we just left them as is, I think there's
No,
some.
I mean, your recommendation gives us 3 alternatives, but we've got TUPs that go through June of 2022. I'm not understanding why it's necessary for us to take action at this time, I guess. What if we just said, no, we don't want to take any action at this point? What would we be creating certain problems?
Yes, the June 2022 date was conditioned upon them being in compliance with our dining deck criteria. We have been put on notice, as you know, by our risk management carriers that we have concerns with some of the dining decks that are in the city right away. So it's really the council's been put on notice that you're accepting risk. You need to get a plan put in place to mitigate the risk, and so that's the urgency here. And the reason that we didn't offer item number 2, which was the most lenient, was for fear of being in this exact position again in 30 days. So we wanted to have a very clear deadline, clear direction from council, and a clear record in case there's any incidents out there that this was the intent of the council.
And I get that. That's good. And so what are other cities doing? Are other cities taking similar actions for similar reasons?
Yes, and they're requiring, as you noted the workshop, there's a variation in terms of how aesthetically pleasing they would like them, but the safety issue is really not negotiable in any of the cities. Okay. So it's really more of a matter of aesthetics, city to city. I think to also add to Councilmember Standy's question, it appears, Kevin, that the legislature stepped in after the council had this discussion and is possibly allowing these decks for another year past our ordinance. So I believe that's the case. And so if in fact I'm reading the law correctly, the synopsis will be back to you most likely asking for another year to extend these once they're brought into compliance. But that was the balancing act the council was weighing here a couple of months ago, is how much to ask them to put into aesthetic compliance with them not knowing how long the law was going to allow them to have the decks out there. So it appears that our restaurateurs are in a better position than we thought they were a few months ago.
Thank you.
All right, let's hear from the public. We have a request to speak. Madam Clerk, would you please call upon and instruct the caller? Looks like the caller has been elevated. Please identify.
Yes, hi.
Yes.
Hi, I don't want to upset your meeting. My name is Brad Anderson. I currently live in the city of Rancho Mirage, but I wanted to speak on consent item number 5. I know you passed it rapidly, so okay. I don't know what the...
I am sorry, Mr. Anderson, you're out of order at this time. The correct time to have raised your hand would have been when I called the consent calendar. All right, we're ready for discussion of this item. Comments from council? Councilmember Nestante and then Councilmember Quintanilla.
Yes, well, we all know how much our restaurant owners have been through during this whole pandemic, and of all the businesses, they were one of the most hard hit. There was also the fitness centers, and I could name a few others, but really our restaurant owners were hit so hard, and many have gone out of business. And so I, for one, want to give every restaurant owner the most lenient length of time to come into compliance. Many of the restaurants shut down during the summer. Maybe they didn't get the notices. There is a labor shortage. Maybe they're scrambling. I'm hypothesizing here on the reason why there's still some that haven't turned in their plans. But we're at October 14th, and it might not be possible to get what is needed by October 31st. So I hope we can give the most lenient option, which is November 30th, in my humble opinion.
Thank you. Councilmember Quintanilla.
Thank you, Mayor. My thoughts are similar to Councilmember Nastande in terms of we've asked our business owners and our restaurateurs a lot. We've asked a lot of them. We've asked for continued patience, and I believe that in order to do what's best for the whole community, it would really be to allow them the opportunity to have safe outdoor dining. You may have all received the same emails. There was a resident by the name of Christy Gerard, and she mentioned that she would like to see how other cities have vaccine mandates in order to have indoor dining. And where I know that won't happen in Palm Desert, at least we could allow residents a opportunity to have additional outdoor dining. And so in order to accommodate that, I think we need to make that process equitable and make it an open process where we allow the opportunity to take, as we've mentioned many times, the carrot versus the stick. So if we extend for an additional 2 weeks to say at least get it in the door, we can have some consideration. I also have been in contact with some community members that have said they've had difficulty in even getting through to have architects look at some of their projects, and everybody being backlogged. So, that may be an additional consideration for why they may not have been able to turn it in as quickly as they would like. So I am in favor of recommending staff proceed with option number 3.
All right. I think with Councilmember Nastante, I favor option 2 because our restaurateurs have so many pressures getting ready for season. And there are some complexities, as Councilmember Quintanilla just acknowledged, to securing the professional help needed to complete the application and all the schematics. So I would fear that 2 weeks is not enough, and that we might end up, pressed to make exceptions because of some very compelling circumstances. I don't fear that option 2 will just lead to procrastination, putting us up against another problematic deadline, because Mr. Schwartz convinced me in his staff report that communications have been so intense, particularly as of late, that everyone's being brought along pretty expeditiously. So I favor option 2, Councilmember Jonathan, and then Mayor Pro Tem Harnick.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, so number 1, as Councilmember Nastande indicated, the hospitality industry and specifically restaurants have been one of the hardest hit, if not the hardest hit, victims of COVID-19. Number 2, the hospitality industry is integral and necessary and crucial to our economy and employing people and enabling our city to carry out its work. And number 3, the outdoor dining decks, these restaurants are helping us realize our vision for the city. It's something we want, and there are partners in that. So for all those reasons, I think we need to make things as easy on them as possible to have outdoor dining decks, hopefully on a permanent basis if they so choose. And so I would move for accepting Staff's recommendation number 2, option 2, which is extending the compliance date 1 month to November 30th, 2021.
Do we have a second? And then we'll hear from Mayor Pro Tem Harnick.
I will second the motion.
Oh, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Harnick.
Thank you so much. I have a question. So Kevin, when someone submits the TUP package, can you tell us exactly what is included in that package?
So what's included is a site plan of currently what's out there. So basically somebody comes.
Okay, so just when they have to give you a TUP package, and they've got right now they've got, 2 weeks, 2 days to do it. What is it that they must have within that package that they're going to submit to you for your okay?
Yeah, they have to have a site plan showing the dining deck with dimensions. They have to have the proposed barrier, whatever they're proposing, whether it's a concrete planter, whether it's a wine barrel, whether it's a metal planter. They have to show the measurements of that. They have to show the height. They have to basically provide kind of an image of what that looks like. They have to provide on that site plan kind of that diagonal taper that I presented, their method of a curb stop. They have to show their delineator post and the reflector tabs. And then just provide all of the dimensions.
Okay, so if they go to you with that TUP and they've provided all of these things, but you look at them and as a planner and you've got your job to do and you go, this doesn't comply, this does not satisfy the guidelines we put in place, then what happens?
So then we provide comments to them and we go over what needs to be done. In situations like that, I've actually met them out in the field and kind of gone over where, what barriers, where they should be located at. And then they resubmit based on those comments.
So if they're unable then to resubmit before having addressed those comments that you made, let's see, because, we all are talking about all labor is short and stressed and working, and any of us who've done a little construction know it's hard to get people to do that. The architects are stretched thin as well. What happens if you've given them, they have to submit by October 31st. It's not right. You give them comments and then they're scrambling to get it right. Then what happens?
Then staff will help them out to make sure that they get everything on a site plan that we need.
Could I just clarify here? Is it the intention for the deadline to apply to the initial application as opposed to the perfected application?
Yes, well, so the deadline was intended to actually have the decks be modified in the field.
And which deadline is that that you're referring?
That was the October 31st, 2021 date.
So we've kind of taken that one out. No one said, gee, I like 1. There's been talk of 2 and 3. So on 3, kind of walk me through what happens to somebody. They submit their temporary use permit on October 30th. Because that's what it took for them to get an architect and whatever else it was that they needed. And you say, well, this doesn't fly. What happens?
Well, the intent is that they submit an application and we will work through that application with them.
So if I could, so they have under option 2, under option 3, they have to submit an initial application before the end of this month. They have through the end of November to get everything completed and get it built. Is that correct?
Correct.
Under option 2, the initial paperwork could come in November 1st or November 5th. we're still pointing toward having all the work completed by the end of November, correct?
That is correct.
So the only difference is whether we cut them enough slack to get their initial paperwork in later than these next 2 weeks, right?
Right.
Okay.
And I think an addendum, listening to you, Mayor, is an addendum. If council wants to give staff the flexibility to work with folks that are in construction by the end of November, that's fine, and make a call as long as there's good faith. I mean, we didn't have that discretion under the current direction that you gave us. The decks are supposed to be built by October 31. So if you want to give me and staff a little bit of flexibility, assuming that they're under construction or they're getting ready to, that would be fine. We just didn't have that authority under the first iteration.
Right, Councilmember Quintanilla and then Councilmember Jonathan.
Thank you, Mayor. The discussion has ping-ponged to a lot of different places, and I think that something that's been simmering, as we mentioned, that it's the workforce shortage. And I think that a conversation that I actually had with the city clerk, Ms. Norma, today about the fact that we also have a childcare crisis. And I think that whatever we can do to ensure that we support our restaurant owners, because they may have an issue with getting staff back if their staff doesn't have childcare. And that may mean that no matter how close we get to the holidays, that crunch is still going to be there. And that means that they may be the ones pulling those extra shifts in order to get these done. So I think that I am in favor of being more gracious and giving them and as much time as staff thinks would be appropriate. As a city manager mentioned, as long as it's in good faith, that's all that we can ask, that things be done in good faith, because we know that they have zero control over how soon their proposals are approved by who's going to prepare what they need. So I think that in showing compassion to how we can help support their ventures means that we're going to have guests enjoying the holidays, enjoying our great weather, and it only ripples positive things forward.
Councilmember Jonathan.
Thank you, Mayor. I think that between workers electing not to go back to work and the supply chain ships just lining up outside LA, it's tough to get material. It can be very challenging for these to get the outdoor dining decks up, even once they're approved, even if they're approved tomorrow, to get them done by November or even December. So I'm really concerned about that. I would amend my motion to accept option 2, but to allow for an extension, I guess, until December 31st. I would also suggest that if staff is seeing that there is sincere effort and that due to factors beyond their control, the restaurants are having a hard time getting by December 31st, especially due to labor shortage and supply chain issues, that staff come back to us and give us an opportunity to extend that deadline beyond December 31st. So sorry, Norma, if you can put that together into an amended motion, that would be it.
Let me simply ask Councilmember Jonathan if you might want to make it less specific and simply authorize staff to grant extensions in response to good faith progress.
Your wisdom is appreciated as always. That would be the amended motion. Thank you.
Let's see if the second agrees.
I do indeed.
Okay, are we ready to vote?
Indeed.
Madam Clerk?
Great. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem Harnick?
Yes, and I just have to add, when we allow everyone these extensions, they must know how important complying with the safety issues are. So however we send them a letter, that must be emphasized.
Councilmember Jonathan?
Aye.
Councilmember Nastandi?
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla?
Aye.
Mayor Kelly?
Yes,
Motion carries unanimously.
thank you so much. We have no information items. Do we have any city manager comments?
Not tonight, thank you.
Wait, I have one thing. I'm here at City Hall listening to the band outside. So every Thursday of October, free concerts at Civic Center Park. Go Dodgers.
All right, thank you so much, and we will be adjourned.
Stay healthy, everyone. Get your cancer screenings.
The city council meeting has adjourned at 4:55 p.m.